Hi, my name's Amer, and this is Why'd You Do That PF2E. Pathfinder 2nd Edition is my favorite tabletop role-playing game. It might be my forever game, and on this channel, I want to get into why the game does what it does and what it can mean for a fun game for you and your friends. One of the challenges of a game like this as a game master is to create fun and compelling encounters for low-level adventures, which is where most games happen. Not only do these have to be fun and compelling, but they also have to feel real, as one of the strengths of tabletop role-playing games is the ability to create realistic worlds to adventure in. Combat aren't just tactical puzzles, but have to feel like a natural part of the world, and the violence should be justified in order for the players to feel like the good guys, or at least tell a good story. There are a few basic approaches to this that come from the type of enemy used in the encounter, and I'd like to talk about a few of them, going from more supernatural to less, and how well they can be related to the real world, which is how we give them realism, and justified to give the player characters a good story. Magically animated objects are a kind of foe that can only exist in a very magical world, and Paizo provides a lot of very good options such as animated brooms, blades, and even silverware that can make for a very interesting challenge and set the scene for a campaign that is going to have a lot of wizards and arcane or occult magic. All of the monsters that Paizo publishes are made freely available online in a lot of different places, one of those being the Archive of Nethys. The lack of realism here is actually a good thing, as it creates a very magical universe to play in, and can be used to create a very light-hearted and whimsical story, as justifying a combat such as this is very straightforward, as only objects are involved. This is why Palestinian women and children are referred to not as human beings, but as human shields. After all, should anyone really care if a bunch of shields are destroyed by the players, especially if they're being used in service of an evil organization of some sort? Moving on, another type of enemy that is very popular and useful are otherworldly beings that are inherently evil, things such as demons and devils. Pathfinder provides quite a rich lore for these creatures, and foes such as imps and lemurs can create a world that, while not very connected to anything realistic, provides a backdrop of a universe with strong themes of good versus evil. And because these enemies are essentially creations of pure evil, the justification for combat comes built in. And we can see how compelling these justifications are when we consider how regularly they're used against the Palestinian people. For example, the Heritage Minister of Israel called people in Gaza monsters, to justify not only their expulsion, but also dropping nuclear weapons on them. The Prime Minister of Israel has in public speeches and social media cast the Israeli massacre in Gaza as a struggle against the children of darkness. Once a people have been successfully cast as inherently evil, then no more needs to be said to justify violence against them. Heading away from the magical and the supernatural, we have a staple low-level enemy, and that is regular old animals. Killing rats is almost a rite of passage in not only tabletop role-playing games, but a wide variety of games. This is not only the kind of threat that we as humans can instinctively recognize, there are also a lot of low-level animal stat blocks to use to create encounters in a world that feels grounded, and maybe not so fantastical, at least at the start of a campaign. Now, most of us don't face animal attacks in our modern urban lives, but an exception to this are Palestinians, who are attacked in vicious ways by Israeli attack dogs. There is video of an old Palestinian lady being set upon by an Israeli attack dog from June 2024, and a story from July 2024 of a young Palestinian man with Down syndrome who was mauled by one and left to die. Based on what he said to the dog as he was being attacked, it seems like he thought the dog was trying to play with him and was just being too rough. The Israeli Defense Forces forced his family to leave him behind, and they found him dead when they returned a week later. So you can take that as inspiration on how to describe an attack by a wolf, I guess. Justifying attacking animals is easy as well, since they're not a force that can be usually communicated with, especially in the context of things like insect swarms, which can explain why one Israeli general boasted of how he had handled the West Bank, a part of the Palestinian occupied territories that is not the Gaza Strip, saying because of his actions, all the Arabs will be able to do is scuttle around like drugged cockroaches in a bottle. After all, getting rid of cockroaches isn't something that needs to be explained or justified. It just sounds like pest control. The quote, by the way, is from 1983. 40 years later, in October of 2023, the Israeli defense minister, when ordering a complete siege of Gaza, said, "We are fighting human animals, and we are acting accordingly." Another group of enemies that can be used for low-level encounters is just regular old humans. This creates a world that is very grounded, as human-on-human violence is what we are most used to in our own reality and media, and Paizo provides a lot of NPC stat blocks that can be used as enemies for this purpose. In this case, of course, the humans have to be described as violent threats of some sort. And if the campaign is to be combat heavy and the players want to be the good guys in the world, then these foes need to be described as irredeemably violent who can only be stopped through similar kinds of violence. An assault on an evil bandit fortress, for example. We can see how this justification works as the common trope of conflating Arabs and Muslims with terrorists in Western media conditions people to accept violence against people who look like me as necessary to keep people like me under control, lest we take over or something. And is, of course, used as a very easy propaganda tool against Palestinians in all forms of media. All of this is well and good, but none of it speaks to one very easy way of creating a low-level encounter, especially from a usually higher-level enemy, and that is to make the target young. Most of the options I have talked about thus far don't really allow for this. Objects and otherworldly demons don't have young after all, and there is no reason for a den of bandits to have children be a factor other than as NPCs to be rescued, perhaps. But the power of tabletop roleplay games is that it is expected for a GM to create a realistic world, and that usually has children in it. This most commonly comes up with beasts, whether magical or not, and having the player stumble across a newly born dragon or a bunch of direwolf pups is an easy way to prompt some ethical conversation about whether violence is justified against these helpless creatures. But what about young humanoids? How can that be justified? Well, that is where the fantasy trope of inherently evil humanoid species comes to the rescue. Killing goblin children is almost as much of an RPG trope as killing rats is. Even the popular game Baldur's Gate 3 allows this. And the defense of this comes down to, well, goblins are inherently evil. So goblin children are inherently evil, and the players can not only still be the good guys while eliminating them, but even celebrated for doing so. This form of dehumanization that glorifies the killing of children goes beyond the objectification and demonization that I have described earlier. I have come to think of it as goblinification, and there are of course real-world examples of how this works. There's a video of Israeli Orthodox Jewish wedding-goers celebrating the killing of a Palestinian toddler. In the video, a young man repeatedly snaps a photo of Ali Dawabshe, I am probably pronouncing the name wrong, an 18-month-old Palestinian child who was killed in an arson attack carried out by Israeli settlers in July. The article that describes this is from December of 2015, and the attack that claimed Ali's life was in July 2015. Then, in 2018, the family of Ali was taunted by some Israelis chanting, "Where is Ali? Ali's dead. Ali's on the grill." Ali, for these people, was not human. To them, he was more akin to something like a goblin. From October 2023 to March 2024, more than 13,000 Palestinian children, much like Ali and some younger, have died, and it hasn't stopped. Just on August 10th, 2024, a school compound housing displaced Palestinians was bombed, and more children died. One day after I finished writing the script, an Israeli airstrike killed 4-day-old twins on the 13th of August, and pictures and video of the grieving father was cheered on Zionist social media. The British medical journal, The Lancet, in July 2024 has estimated that, including indirect deaths caused by the Israeli assault and blockade, the death toll could conservatively be as high as 186,000 dead, with many of them being children. If you made it to the end of this video, then I thank you. I have an open letter to Paizo to call for a ceasefire and justice for Palestinians. The link to the letter, as well as all the sources used in this video and sign-up instructions, are in the description. Please consider signing it. I'm not asking for real names or social media handles, so the risk to you should be minimal. We are all complicit in this genocide that has, as of August 2024, been going on for more than 300 days. And we all have a responsibility to try and stop it. This complicity and responsibility falls more on Americans than any other nationality, as unfortunately, it is American dollars and arms that are keeping it going. Paizo is an American company. I don't have much of a platform at all, and I might have a smaller one now if I get banned for posting this video to Paizo-focused social media that doesn't allow political content. But I do consider myself, at least for now, to be a part of the community that has been built around Paizo's excellent games and otherwise amazing stances on social justice issues. If anyone from the company is watching, then I'm asking you directly. Please, pressure your company and your union to say something. It is the bare minimum. Thank you.